Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Vartika. I'm going to be your moderator for this trilogue. And first of all, thank you so much for your presence here at ETCFO Leadership Summit 2023. This is our fourth edition of this conference, and we are proud to be part of the CFO leaders community, and we are happy to, participate and serve you in terms of the stories, in terms of such discussions that we keep on doing. And, and we do that with the best of our abilities. So, today we are here to discuss what makes CFO a successful leader. And, we know such topics can get philosophical, they can get repetitive, but trust me, we will keep it as practical as the transformation of an ambitious finance professional to becoming a successful CFO. So, but before we do that, let me introduce you to our stellar panelist. We have with us Robin Banerjee, who's the President and CEO of Caprihans India. He has earlier served as MD of Arcelor-Mittal Germany, ED of Thomas Cook and Essar Steel, and Group CFO of Suzlon Energy. Not only he is a CFO turned CEO turned ED of big companies, but he has also authored 3 business non-fiction books on fraud, scams, and the dark side of corporate world. He is a radical thinker who keeps writing articles and contributing his 3,000 feet view on ongoing corporate issues and news. We also have with us Dindayal Jalan, who is an independent director on various boards, including Vedanta Resources, Bharat Aluminium, and more. So previously, he has served as Group CFO of Vedanta. As a CFO, he has seen Vedanta make history. So from the company being listed on London Stock Exchange to big mergers with Sterlite India or Cairn India and much more. We are here to extract the maximum learnings from their wisdom and fallouts. So that it can help all of the finance leaders present here in the room become successful leaders in the future, in the next paradigm that we are here to talk about. So, without hogging much of your time, let me come to our speakers and ask you the question that, what does it mean for a CFO to be a successful leader? And, as Prajakta said, that, finance chiefs are expected to be creative, empathetic, analytical, strategic. So, are these enough ingredients to be a successful leader? So, Mr. Banerjee, let's start with you.
Hello, everyone. CFO as a successful leader, or anyone wanting to become a successful leader, and incidentally, perhaps a CFO, I believe there are 3 characteristics which we must keep in mind. The characteristic number 1, the CFO is the natural choice to becoming the CEO. Most organizations have things, I have seen, that whenever there is this succession planning, CFO would definitely be considered for the corner office. And therefore, the characteristic which is required by a CFO is to be that of an entrepreneur. The CFO, he or she, is not an accountant anymore. He or she is an entrepreneur. So characteristic number 1, to be that of entrepreneurship or of that of entrepreneur. Characteristic number 2, the CFO must have a 360 degrees view. That means he or she needs to go up 150,000 feet above and try to see the whole organization in the holistic manner. The finance numbers, the EBITDA numbers, the PBT, PAT, margin, that of course is given, that the finance team is going to give. But marketing, HR, IT, manufacturing, technology, of course, as CFO normally will have insurance, purchase, IT with them, but what about marketing, HR, manufacturing, technology? Therefore, a CFO must have, and a very important characteristic is to have a 360 degrees view. And this is, I have seen that most accountants who are aspiring to be a CFO and then a CEO do not delve much time on. I'm an accountant, I know what to do. And the third characteristic, which perhaps would be not too talked about, ladies and gentlemen, we need to have empathy. This is one single characteristic of empathy will distinguish you from the others. So be that of entrepreneurial spirit, 2, possess a 360 degrees view, and 3, have and display empathy. The corner office is that of yours.
Mr. Jalan, what are your views here?
I fully agree with you. At the same time, I think maybe one point I will add, that he has to be a big picture man. And that is what will happen once what Robin said, all of that he is doing. I'll just add one story over here, and just to bring a little bit more perspective. Once a king was going to a construction site. So he asked a mason, what is he doing? So one mason said that he's just plastering the wall. A little ahead, he asked the same question to another mason. He said, I am constructing a beautiful temple. See the difference between both the masons. They are doing the same work, but at the same time, the second mason, he related the activity to the purpose. And that is what brings the joy of doing the work. And once you have the joy, then everything becomes unlimited.
Thank you. Thank you for your views. Recently I was having this conversation with Amol, and, he told me the same thing. You need to have joy. So, now this next question is for next in line for CFOs. And, Mr. Banerjee, I'll take this question with you. So, we all want to progress up the corporate ladder, and we eventually find out that the role is complex. And not even the role, the world around us is getting complex by day. So, what should mid-level finance professional or budding CFOs understand about this climb and prepare for it too?
As a budding CFO or young finance person, and as we are trying to go up the corporate ladder, and obviously to my mind, the objective is to become the CFO and later on the CEO. One issue which I have faced in my life is that you feel that you are the best suited person for the next promotion, and only to find that your fellow colleague got the promotion and not yourself. And this is a huge setback as you go along. Please remember, the life is a long journey. In our journey, success cannot come all the time. You need to do the best and leave it to the rest to happen automatically. Therefore, a fumble here and a fumble there, and promotion not being here and not being there, should not take your eyes off your main goal. Do your job the best every damn day. The second, be it a CFO or otherwise, be it a finance person otherwise, in our life, we are on an interview every day. Every day, we are appearing for a job interview. We are being analyzed, looked at, debated every damn day, even if you don't know that people are discussing about you. And higher you go, more is the discussion about you. And believe in me, the discussions are more on your negatives than on your positives. And this is where that so-called empathy, which I told you earlier, plays a big part. That if you have empathy towards your people, most people will say, oh, theek hai, wo to hota hai. Once or twice doesn't matter, because we will make mistakes. So in short, as we go up, there are going to be failures. So don't take it in your stride. To please see that every day you give your best, touch your heart, and try to do your best. Don't think too much of future. Kal kya hoga, next year kya hoga, after 5 years I should get that job. Doesn't work that way. World doesn't work that way. If you give your best, it will. Good is bound to happen. And the third, I come back to the same issue. If you're empathic to others, chances are that people will forgive you when you do real mistakes. And mistakes we always do.
Thank you. You know what? Whenever we talk about CFO and CEO relationship, the most popular thing is that, a CFO is a co-pilot to CEO, a CFO is partner to the CEO or the board. So, here, Mr. Jalan, now that, you are on the other side of the table, you being a board member and you being a president and a CEO. So the question is that, uh, can you help us deconstruct the CFO and board or CFO or CEO relationship? When it comes to expectations, when it comes to ego management with the CEO or the board, and most importantly, what are the challenges of this relationship and how should a CFO deal with it?
Very good, thank you. So I think when I look at from the other side, the role of CFO, sometimes CFO thinks that the questions being asked by the board members are little far-fetched. So, but when I look at being the director on the board, then I see that all those questions which are generally asked by the directors are right questions, and those are helpful in getting the correct shareholder value by helping the management to think laterally. And also, if we look at from the point of view of the board, then I think CFO's role is more like a bridge between the management and the board, and he plays very important link between that bridge. As far as challenge is concerned, I think one important challenge which I see is that at times CFO has to manage the expectation of the management from the board.
Expectation management.
That's right.
Right. And Mr. Banerjee, what is your view? There are many conflicts. There are, thought process differences. Then
Two major conflicts. Many a times I've seen. The CEO sometimes feel my biggest competitor is a CFO. And when the CEO becomes unsure of himself or herself, that's where a major conflict starts. The CFO as a CFO, first of all, as a CFO, you are the logical choice for the CEO. So please understand the board is looking at you all the time as a probable successor. And rightly so, the CEO has smelled it, saying that that fellow is my next successor or possible successor if something happens to me. Therefore, we have, as a CFO, have to be intelligent enough to tell the CEO that you are not there to occupy his or her job. You are there to help him to do his job. Number one. Number two, we as leaders want people below us who can do our job, although we don't think that way. It means that our subordinate should be able to think on our behalf, what is the next thing to do? If he or she can anticipate the problem which is coming, if he is or she can anticipate the steps he needs to take, if he or she can anticipate what the board is going to ask questions, and he or she is going to anticipate what the world around is going to ask, the CEO's job is done. And that's what CFO always have to do. As a whatever stage of life you are in, be it CFO or otherwise, please try to do your boss's job. If you start doing your boss's job, there is, of course, a possibility of a conflict because the boss may think too much of yourself, unfortunately. But the best part is that's the only way to succeed and make your boss redundant. It's a plus and a minus. I leave it to you, ladies and gentlemen. How do you want to handle it?
thank you, sir. This next question is for both the panelists. And the question is that, there's this phrase which says CFO is a conscience keeper. And, I've been hearing that for a very long time. I think throughout my career, which is very short span, but still. And, I think that this phrase has, existed as long as this designation must have existed. So, CFO's task as a conscious keeper, which I have learned, is, asking tough questions about revenues and cost. And, I just want to ask here that, how should a CFO make sure that they speak truth to power? How do they deal with a difficult situation when they have to put their foot down and put this cap on? And, has the meaning of this phrase changed with time? So, Mr. Jalan, would you want to take this?
I think meaning has not changed at all, and this is the role which CFOs had been playing and they are going to play and they are already playing this. Because as Robin also mentioned that he has got the nerve of everything what is going on in the business. And he is the most suited person, and many times CEOs, because of XYZ factors, they have to look at a balancing act. So at some point of time, somebody has to take that role. So it is the CFOs normally who jumped into the fray and try to ask tough questions. And that is how, if we just try to look at it in today's parlance, the CFOs are not only confined to their own finance domain, but they are looking at how to maximize the value by revenue optimization, cost optimization, by working capital. All that are the areas where they are hand in hand with the CEOs. It is CEO's domain, but they are equal part of that. And that is where they know everything, and that is where they are adding value and they are driving some of these tough decisions.
Mr. Banerjee, what is your view? And I have a follow-up question after this.
On the area of governance, that was a question Vartik had asked. I want to tell you a small story. In 2016, EY, Ernst & Young, you all know, did a survey, which is called the fraud survey, or bribery survey, which many organizations keep doing. And a finding in this 2016 survey was, you'll be surprised to know, that in India, 70% of CXOs are willing to cut the corners to show better financial results. This is India's CXO. The world average in this survey was shown as 40%. This is a dangerous trend. Going further, this survey said that, as we all know, the finance guys, we are CFOs, we are finance guys, are the harbinger of governance. 16% of CFOs were willing to follow what the CEO was supposed to do, which means show little sales more, take the next quarter sales to the previous quarter, teaming and lading, little stuffs here and there to show better results. Why I told you this story is, if the survey is taken in 2023, I personally believe the survey outcome will not be too different. There is this hidden desire on many of us to show better than reality pictures, thinking that it will be fine the next quarter. We don't remember that it's like doing a fraud or financial fraud is like riding a tiger. It is very easy to ride on it, but how do you get down from a tiger? Tiger's back. And this is the conundrum, ladies and gentlemen. We are, to my mind, our profession is having as of now. That's why so many stories are coming up. So, to cut the long story short, there is an issue in terms of many of our mindset as to what is it that it is expected from our leaders, which happens to be the board or the entrepreneur, the chairperson himself or herself. And if the captain of the ship is ethical, the job for all of us is much easier. But if the captain is unethical, I actually don't have an answer. The EY result says the answer is difficult.
So, when we talk about this, sometimes it's easier said than done. So, we've seen many CFOs, I think a few years back, there was a UK-based company. It was a software maker, and the CFO and the CEO both resigned after they highlighted irregularities. Similar cases we've seen in India. So, how should CFOs handle such a tough situation? Do you have any advice for them? Any word of encouragement or giving them any motivation and courage?
Three things have happened very, very, very well for all of us to take this question forward. One, the Companies Act itself, the 2012 Companies Act, has helped us tremendously because for the first time it has defined what is fraud. Fraud was never defined. Therefore, everyone was thinking, yeah, theek hai, wo chalega. Number two, the IBC code, the insolvency banking code. Now the entrepreneurs know that if I don't pay the banks on time, my company will be auctioned off. And number three, GST. The fact that GST has come in, everything which we do, goods and services, every transaction is now recorded. So the unwritten India has now become written India. This has definitely helped us. Having said that, because these 3 laws and other laws, I think we as CFOs or finance people, whatever the designation we are being called, it is very important for us to explain to the entrepreneur, to the board, that if you do this, this is the outcome. Please keep telling and harping on them that please do not do this. The outcome is such and such. Many a times we keep quiet. I have noticed the CFO keeps quiet, the finance team keeps quiet, thinking that entrepreneur, the board must be aware of it. It's not true. They may be aware, but they have forgotten. Or they may be aware, they are ignoring it. If you remind them, chances are that they will fall into space. Who wants to go to jail? Who wants to go behind bars? Who wants to be put into trouble? No one. So our job is therefore to explain to the powers that be, if you do this, X, Y, Z, the outcome would be negative, so please don't do it. My submission to you is, walking out doesn't help. I am not a believer of leaving the ship. Okay, let me walk out, let me resign, jo hoga to hoga. That's not true. If you are inside, the chances of success is much more. Moment you're outside, you can do nothing. So don't leave the ship. Try to do what is right. And my experience shows ethics and ethical practices, if preached and tried to be preached, it works almost at 100% of the cases. Only thing is, sometimes we don't do it and we don't perhaps make others do it.
Mr. Jalan, any word of advice here?
No, I think I echo what Mr. Banerjee said. And in fact, there are many cases in our life we have seen when the numbers are fuzzed, and those numbers are fuzzed for certain monetary gains. And we have seen this in banks enormous times. A lot of banks, they have failed because of number fuzzing. Same happens in the corporate also. And nowadays, there's another challenge which is coming up. It is of integrity. There are a lot of issues of integrity getting compromised. I think in some of those areas, the best advice is that stay strong, and whosoever it is, at whatever level this fuzzing is being done, I think maybe take exemplary action so that it gets minimized. And obviously, I think maybe nowadays, because of a lot of things, these cases are increasing. But I think you have to keep on doing your act to see that there is exemplary action.
Right. So this next question is for Mr. Banerjee. What skills should a CFO have to lead the company not only when the high fives are flying, but also when the time gets tough?
Your question is, what does CFO do when the times are tough? First tell yourself, tough times don't last, tough people do. Tough times don't last, tough people do. We have to keep telling ourselves, because the finance team is always going through tough times. And you have to keep telling yourself, don't worry, we will make it happen. Very important, very important. 360 degrees view. A company goes through difficulties, believe in me, not because of market reasons, because of something else. Maybe it's high debt, maybe inappropriate ethical practices, maybe not understanding what the customer wants. Something which is affecting the company, the CFO has the ability to look at it from the 360 degrees from 150,000 feet. So the CFO needs to identify what is it that is making the problem. Is it the bankers not having trust in you? Is it the equity partners not having trust in you? Is it that people under you do not have the skills? Maybe you don't have the technology to deal with it. Maybe some imports are taking place. The competition is playing havoc. So very important for us, when the tough time comes, the CFO needs to put the hat of the CEO to understand what is the problem. And then be a consultant, be an external consultant. If you are a McKinsey consultant, for instance, what would you do? You will come inside the company, try to understand what the problem is. Why can't the CFO himself or herself become the McKinsey? Why do you have to go to someone else? Try to identify the problem, and again tell yourself, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Sure. Mr. Jalan, I'll ask more specific question, on the same lines. We all know that information travels fast, and it has an immediate impact not only on bosses but on reputation. On a lighter note, information these days travel faster than we can say the word Honolulu. So the thing is that, when it has some serious repercussions, what is the role of a CFO in such kind of tough times, and how should a CFO handle it?
I think the most important thing is that he needs to be quiet. He need not be agitated towards what is happening around. Because if he loses the sleep, if he loses his own mental stability, then he is not going to take care of this tough situation, which may be because of external reasons, which may be because of internal reasons. So that is where I think he needs to have a quietude, and he needs to think through, and then plan it out as to how do we try to handle the situation. And obviously, I think maybe the transparency in sharing the information with the external stakeholder, depending on what the situation is, that becomes very important, because once you have a good reputation with the person with whom you are communicating, and if he has got trust in you, so then the things are going to be taken care of in a mutual way. So practicing quietness is something very essential. I will just try to share one example. I think in one of my early days, I saw that there was some income tax survey, and those people, they came in a bunch of 10, 15, and they will always try to intimidate. So at that point of time, if you lose your mental balance, so that is where the problem is going to come. So you have to just be quiet and cooperate with them. Nothing is going to happen. If everything is perfect, nothing is going to happen. But that is the test of how you are dealing patiently. So that is what is the most important thing.
Right. On that note, I have an interesting question for Mr. Banerjee. CFOs are changing. They're becoming more outward. They're becoming more, open. But, intrinsically, we see the CFO role has been, very introvert. So, in that case, when we combine that with something called emotional intelligence, which is very important for leadership these days, especially after COVID-19, how do you think that, a CFO who doesn't have those qualities, inculcate it, build it? What are your views, sir?
An excellent question. I would like to delve with this question of being emotionally sound and balanced. As any leader, be it CFO or otherwise, needs to have three areas of competence. One is called IQ, intelligence quotient. All of you, everyone who has become a CFO or would become a CFO, your intelligence is at the high level, no question about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been in the chair. So IQ is the primary requisite, which of course deals with knowledge and expertise. The second characteristic which we must have is EQ, emotional quotient. IQ, EQ. What is EQ? EQ is the ability to deal with others. Ability to deal with others. Which means that if you cannot motivate others, if you cannot provide leadership, you cannot guide others, we have no right to become a leader. Leader is someone people wants to follow. That means the leader always necessarily have to have the immense ability to deal with others. Think of in your school, who were the first boy or first girl? The first boy or first girl, where is he or she today? Chances are that he or she hasn't succeeded. High IQ, but perhaps average or low EQ. So IQ, EQ. But there's a third thing which we need to have. It's called LQ. LQ is love quotient. Love quotient means love what you do. You just said joy. Enjoy yourself. Love what you do. Don't complain. This job is not good, I don't like it. The office is not good, I don't like my boss, I don't like my colleagues. No, just enjoy it. Love what you do. If you love what you do, automatically things will fall into place. So LQ and EQ are together. Love others, love yourself, love your people around, love what you do. So IQ, EQ, LQ, think about it, put these three together, winning has to come.
Great. Thank you, sir. Mr. Jalan, I'll come to you and I'll ask you that, at the beginning of our discussion, we talked about the next in line for CFOs climbing the ladder. But, becoming a CFO is not the end. There's more to this corporate ladder for the CFO as well. So, in that case, how is CFO leadership different, when she climbs the ladder to becoming a CEO or an MD or a board member? And what lessons need to be unlearned, while climbing this ladder, this corporate ladder?
So basically, I think once you climb from CFO to the CEO or to the board, one thing very important is that you have to carry the people with you, and that too a larger number of people. And that is where I think you have to act like a coach. And you have to be a problem solver for them, and you have to see that they remain motivated. And what you have to unlearn is, I think, maybe your line responsibility you have to unlearn, so that instead of doing the things, you have to get the things done. That's the most important thing, according to me, what one has to do.
All right, thank you. Mr. Banerjee, I'll come to you, and this one question is that, there's mounting pressure on CFOs to automate finance function. And, as you previously said, that it's not just HR, it is legal, it's compliance, it's marketing, it's so much more that the CFO is handling. And I know that CFOs are trained for this kind of pressure. But, sometimes the pressure gets the best of us. So in that case, how should a CFO working in such high-pressure job identify those signs of burnout, manage it, and bounce back?
If you have high IQ, EQ, and LQ, chances are that there'll be no burnout, because if there is LQ, there is no burnout. Having said that, one thing we must remember, that does a CFO run a popularity contest? That means whoever is coming to him or her, sabko haan bolte hain. No. What is important? Run an acceptability contest, not a popularity contest. The CFO has to be the go-to person. I know I'm answering the question a little differently. How to avoid the burnouts? Burnout happens if you don't love what you do. Burnout does not happen if you love what you do. No question about it. Has Ratan Tata burned out? No. Most successful Indian businessman ever born. And he is as passionate about what he's doing today as he was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years before. And for that matter, any leader you see, any successful leader, there is no burnout. Burnout happens because we believe that what I'm doing is not worthwhile. Somebody else could have done better, or I could have done a better job. So, love what you do, there is never a burnout. However, should an issue arise that they're really, really finding a tough situation, because there is loneliness at the top. As the pyramid goes narrower, you are only a few or maybe only one. That's bound to happen. That's what we aspired for, to become the top position. And then once you become lonely, you start saying, oh, this is not the position I aspired for. Therefore, have good friends. Have a life outside your office. Do something else. Play a music. Join a club. Go to the gym. Play squash. Play table tennis. Do something. Or at least go to a club. That will help you to dissipate the negative energy which you have inside you. Again, tell yourself, I must love what I do. The moment you tell that over and over again and say, tough times don't last, tough people do, there won't be any burnout. That doesn't happen.
Of course, and keep coming to conferences like this so that you don't feel lonely. All right, so I am running short of time, so I'll just quickly do one sentence question with both of you. It's like a rapid fire. So, what is distracting CFOs today, Mr. Banerjee?
Another job interview.
Mr. Jalan.
I think what is happening today, number one, is on the governance side, the challenges which are coming because of ethical issues. That's one challenge. And the other thing is, in this VUCA world, the frequency of unprecedented events which are coming so rapidly, that is what is another challenge which a CFO has to deal with.
All right. I know that you mentioned it gets lonely at the top, but the world has changed so much in the last 5 years, and it keeps changing every year dynamically. So, I think the work culture is changing. There's more collaboration these days, when we talk about how we operate internally. So, does it still get lonely at the top, sir?
Oh, yes, of course, because it is a pyramid. It obviously gets lonely in the top. And therefore, please do and do have an habit outside your workplace. That helps.
What about you, Mr. Jalan?
I think whatever team building you do, you go off sites and all that, but at the end of the day, you are responsible for the actions what you are taking. So eventually you are alone.
All right, so you don't have to feel alone. I've given you a solution. And on that note, I'll open the floor to questions, to ask your questions to the panelists. You can just speak. We can hear you. You can just speak a little louder.
CFO, you should maintain the IQ, EQ, and the LQ. What is the most challenging question that you face, like maintaining all one of these three?
Keep showing better and better results every quarter. This quarter should be better than previous year. Finish. Then nobody will ask you any question.
Yeah. Can we have the mic here?
Hi, I'm Ruchika from Novama Private. I wanted to ask you both, thank you for words of wisdom that you all have shared with your so many years of experience. Why is CFO such a coveted position when it comes with so many, so much of stress? One question is that. And secondly, can't one become a CEO straight on and not use the CFO route?
Ruchita, every coveted position is stressful. Otherwise, there would have been a lot of choices. So therefore, there isn't a position which is not stressful. Now, what is it to be done to get rid of it? As I said, keep doing better and better every quarter. But having said that, it is very important, keep others informed. Many a times we don't keep others informed. What are the challenges? Keep your boss informed, keep the board informed. Wherever relevant, keep the shareholders informed. Lack of information is the biggest problem. The moment you keep informed, including our bankers, that there are difficult times, most of the difficult time happens because the bankers pulls the plug. Keep them informed, chances are that they will be with you. So that's possibly is what we need to do.
One more question we can take.
And my second bit on becoming a CEO straight on, not going through the CFO route.
Of course, the CMO can become the CEO, the CHRO can become the CEO, the CTO can become the CEO. In the world, if you see the top 100 CEOs as per jury of Harvard Business School, is 80% are engineers, not finance people. In India, it's reverse. Most of the CEOs are finance guys. Internationally, it is the engineers, because engineers apparently understand number better, they understand the technology, and the power of analysis is more. So you can, of course, become the CEO without becoming a CEO, but you have to become some CXO to become the CEO. You should know how hard that hat is to wear before that.
You know,
Thank you
I'm
so
sorry, I've used up my time here and I want to conclude the session also. Mr. Jalan and Mr. Banerjee are here, so you can take your question off stage later. Concluding statement, sir. What makes CFO a great leader? Mr. Jalan.
I think his ability to solve the problem and his ability to think out of the box, that is what makes him a great leader.
The CFO's ability to look at the problems on a 360 degrees way is the differentiator.
All right, so, that was my time here. And, before I conclude, I just want to share with you that, I read a book and I'm paraphrasing what I read. It has been reflected in our conversation today, that, leadership is not limited to a designation or a position, but it is consistent and genuine efforts to lead. And it's a transformation that happens over time. It's not just a position. And, it is also about inspiring people, but to first actually care for others, as you mentioned in our discussion. And on that note, please enjoy rest of the summit. And thank you, Mr. Banerjee and Mr. Jalan. And thank you, all of you,
Thank you
for being
so
an excellent
much
audience.
for that absolutely engrossing and fruitful session.